Danny DelVecchio. What's the origin story with this backwards hat?
Oh man, you're coming at me strong right off the bat. Um, you know what? So many people acknowledge it, and I'm not sure that I've ever been asked this question before.
Hmm.
So, well, I'm a Yankees fan for one. So I like fitted Yankees hats, not just because I like the team, the Yankees, but like I'm into the hip hop culture and all that. And when I don't know whether it was like high school or like early college years, like early 20s, I used to have this ice blue camo Yankees hat. And it was my favorite Yankees hat of all time. I wish I still had it. I actually go back like on New Era and like look for it sometimes.
Oh, that's funny.
And I had this ice blue camouflage Yankees hat. Actually, I have a picture of myself wearing the hat, and I'm pretty stoned in the picture. It's kind of fun. But anyway, I digress.
The good old days.
I wore this ice blue Yankees hat like every day, and I wore it this exact way, like backwards, slightly to the side, and it was sort of like the turtle from Entourage look.
Yeah.
And people have compared me over the years to Turtle. Like that's been a thing for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, I used to wear the Yankees hat that way. And then when I started making videos, I would sometimes wear the hat because that's just who I am. That's the same way that I would show up if I was going out and, grabbing a drink with some friends or something like that, right? And sometimes I wouldn't wear the hat, which is the same thing. Sometimes I would go out and grab a drink with friends, or I'd go out to a nice restaurant and I don't wear a hat. And that's how I would do my videos, sometimes hatless and sometimes with the hat. And then I started to be recognized for the hat. It started to become like a staple of the brand. And there's a guy that Sal from Broadway Tires. Right?
Oh, Sal Hanna. Shout out Broadway Tires, Long Island, New York.
Hell yeah. So Sal said to me, he goes, you wear those. He's like, when I see you, when you don't have the hat on, I don't watch the video. And I was like, okay. And I think that was it.
Wow.
I don't think there's been a hatless video. I mean, there's one every now and then, but for the most part, it's a staple.
Amazing. This is why I like these LinkedIn link up podcasts, because, man, you're like my brother, and I've never heard that story either.
The ice blue Yankees hat, yeah.
Yeah, that and Sal, and that's amazing. So obviously, we all know that it's a part of your brand now, right? It's become kind of the recognizable thing. And it's funny when we see some of your posts sometimes and you don't have a hat, there's this kind of shock, like, what's going on? Is everything okay?
Totally.
So what I want to ask you is, why are brands so important today compared to what they were in the past? And what I really mean is, why are personal brands so important today?
This comes back to like you telling me, like, what's the name of your business? Like, how long were you like, what's the fucking name of your business? What's the fucking name of your business? And I'm like, Danny DelVecchio. like I am the business. It's like, what is it? It's a Jay-Z song. He's like, I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Like, That's it. Like, I am the fucking business, right? That's how I look at it. And, I call people out on this too. It's like, what's Hormozi's company name, right? People know, a good portion like of his followers will know that his company is acquisition.com. And same with Gary Vee. Like a good portion of his followers will know that VaynerMedia is the name of his company, right? But what's Tony Robbins' company's name?
Right.
Nobody's got any fucking idea, because you know why? It's just Tony Robbins. It's Tony Robbins Inc. And I think that we are at a point, especially for smaller brands, where the personal brand is way more important than any name or logo or anything like that. So that's why I've been reluctant to give my business a name, because I am the business.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thought process I was thinking, wanted to hear from you, and hoping everyone listen would feel it. Is that there's so many, we are in an amazing era where there's so many new businesses. I think during the pandemic, there was more businesses that were created than there were in the prior 20 years. I forget the stat, don't quote me on it, but it's a lot of businesses were created. And many of these, you and I both deal with small business owners. Most people who listen to this channel are small business owners. Most of the guests who come on here are small business owners. So that's kind of like, I'm in it all day long, as you are. And what we find is so many of them are striving to be this big business, and they think they would like to start by, I have this perfect logo and I have this beautiful name and I have these great colors. And we're seeing, at least between you and I and other people we know that are successful, we're seeing that when they build around that personal brand, it's a game changer. Why do you think it's actually changing the game, though? Why is that resonating with a following, with a consumer, with a client? Why do you believe that, just with your area of expertise, that people are gravitating more towards the people instead of the company?
Because every market is saturated.
Hmm.
Like, you look at something like coaches, right? Like, is there anybody that's not a coach these days? I feel like
Right.
every single person, like, how many business coaches out there? How many mindset, health coaches, wellness coaches? Like, and every single industry is like that because everybody's starting businesses, like you said.
Right.
Everybody's like, they're coming to the point where like, hey, I'm not going to go to the corporate route. I'm going to start my own thing. I'm going to do my own thing. Right. And to me, the way that you stand out amongst everybody else that does the exact same thing that you do and offers, promises similar results to what you do. The only way to stand out is just by being yourself, and people want to work with the people that they feel connected to, that they have this kind of vibe with. And that's it. It's just a matter of like, things have changed. Every market is saturated and people want to work with the people that they find to be, that they're comfortable with and cool with and like.
It's interesting you're saying that, because I was talking with Tom, my partner Tom, yesterday about, there's people that I follow on a variety of different, social media channels, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever it is. But there's people that I follow that I've gotten to know through absorbing their content. Some of them I've met through Zoom meetings or in person or whatever. But most of them I really haven't met. I might have spent a brief period of time just because they're willing to talk to me. I know everybody doesn't have that ability to go talk to the people they follow. I'm lucky enough that I do in many areas. But I already know I'm never going to buy their stuff. Right. I'm like, it's just like they're either too closely aligned or I already have that product or that service, but I still follow them. I continually engage with their content. I continue to look forward to seeing their face on this thing. And the interesting part about it, and this is what I was sharing with Tom, is when the day comes that I need their thing that they're now offering, maybe they offer a new thing or I've eliminated that old thing, I won't even question buying it. I won't ask the price. I won't ask how. I just be like, hey, I need this thing. Can you do it for me now? Do you have room for me now? And that's the thing, is they become almost your friends, without you being a friend to them, but they become part of your life. Like, you get this intimate knowledge about them. And I think that's what so many people have done with Coach Danny D. It's like you've built this big following because it's like you're their friend. You talk to them like, hey, idiot. You talk to them like, this is awesome. We could do this. You're excited. You have the range of emotions, and it's really impressive when I see people doing that. And you're one of those people.
I appreciate that. And I can tell the impact of it the most when I get on a sales call. That's when I feel it the most. Because when I get on a sales call, it's like I have never spoke to that person ever. We've never had a one-to-one communication other than maybe like through a DM, but we've never had like a face-to-face interaction. And that sales call is our first face-to-face interaction. And I almost never have a second sales call, right? Because I get on there and it's like, oh, it's you. And like, I show up the exact same way that I show up in my videos. I sound exactly the same. I use the same verbiage. I have the same hat. I have the same,
Right.
t-shirts, hoodies, whatever like that I typically wear that people are used to seeing me. And there is such a level of familiarity
Right.
that people really do feel like they know me. And, again, like, can you get that without doing video? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
can you get that with just, seeing somebody like in pictures? I really don't know. And I think that I feel more connected to the video creators, that I've met versus the people that are never putting themselves out there on video. And you don't have to be like doing short form videos or anything like that, but like you jump on a podcast like this, or you do a LinkedIn live event, or, you speak in person at
Right.
some sort of event or something like that. That counts all the same, right? But I feel like I need to have, I feel like there needs to be some more than just like, I can't get that from your writing. I
Right.
can't get that from your writing. I get that from seeing your face, from hearing your voice, from watching you interact with people and your body language and everything like that. It's a different level.
Love it. So you've built a pretty successful bit of business out of kind of nothing and mainly all by yourself. So
Well, I had you.
how, well, that's what I'm saying, mainly all by yourself.
Okay.
But how does someone who's listening to this or watching this, how can they get through those hard times?
Oh man. I have to think about it because it's not easy, because there was a lot of doubt and there was a lot of failure, and there was a lot of time spent without making money, where I was making like no money, negative money, essentially. But I still invested every single time. Like that's one thing that I see like as a big mistake from people that are getting started, is they feel like they can't invest because they don't have the money. And I never hesitated to invest in the people that were going to get me to where I wanted to go. Early on, I invested in working with Travis Brown, then invested in working with you and with Tom. And that's got to be it. I mean, that's how you get through it. Like it's the mentors that if you don't have those if I didn't have the mentors, if I didn't have you, or I didn't have Travis, and I didn't have Tom, and I didn't have Ken, people like that.
Yeah.
I'd probably be back in some kind of miserable sales job right now. But maybe it would be miserable, maybe it wouldn't, but I think that's the only way.
Yeah, there's a great saying that you can go much faster alone, but you can go much further together. And I've witnessed that in almost every business I own, every business I've been a part of, is when you see more of a team format, whether they're directly on your team all the time or they're outside, when you have that level of connectivity and a way to share ideas and a feedback and a sounding board, those people tend to go much further. Maybe not as fast, but definitely much further. And it's a difficult lift to build a business in general, and to do it all on your own is really difficult. And I remember witnessing you when you started, having more support from a variety of different areas. You changed as a person. You evolved, you developed, you grew, and you shrunk too, physically and mentally in different ways, as you got more focused with things and things became more important. And, this is a good segue to something I wanted to ask you is, you have two young sons. And I'm curious, how does running your business allow you to be the type of father that you are, which is a pretty amazing one?
It's flexibility, because I have my own business now, as opposed to, being an employee. Excuse me. Sorry. Phone's ringing. I have the flexibility to work when I want. Right. So that's a big deal. But it's also, the world's changed, man. Like I look at, schools and like what they teach in schools, and I don't feel the least bit confident sending my kids to school. Hence why we homeschool my kids, right?
Yeah.
My kids are homeschooled. If I would have thought back on even you said to me 3-4 years ago, will you ever homeschool your kids? I'd be like, fuck no,
Right.
not a chance. But I look at the world completely different. And because like I said, it's just changed. And like I said, I have the freedom to go where I want, to do what I want, to work when I want, to work where I want, to go to my kid's school in the middle of the day if he has some sort of event that I want to attend. And I want the same kind of thing for them. I want the same freedom for them. And I want to be somebody that they look up to. And I want them to emulate I know you've said to me before that you like want your son to get like a really good job and everything like that. You don't necessarily want him to be a business owner. I feel the opposite. Like I want my kids to like be entrepreneurs. I want that's why I started their own business. They had their own business. My kids have monthly recurring revenue. So if you guys are listening and you don't have monthly recurring revenue, my 5 and 7-year-old have MRR. All right. Just saying it's not a lot, but they got it. And I'm just looking at things differently. And I want them to grow up and like see the entrepreneurial experience happening in front of them and their mom too. I mean, this is what like my wife's involved in all kinds of like entrepreneurial endeavors right now. She's trying to get her design business off and running. She just got offered to potentially be the editor-in-chief of a local magazine. So like we're doing all these things and it's exciting. And, and then we're going to be able to teach the kids that too. Because now when you're homeschooling, you have the flexibility to teach them what you want them to learn.
Right.
And we can now teach them like a whole different level of things that they would never get from school.
Yeah, man. I like the freedom part. And that's kind of what a lot of people would tend to say. I have freedom. I could do what I want. But that's the impact that you're able to make with that freedom is a very big difference than just having the freedom. Because it's funny, I know people who have the freedom, and I sent somebody recently this post where it was a woman and she was looking at her cell phone and her child came up and her child was eating an apple and she's like, Mom, and she said, stop, all annoyed looking at the cell phone. And then the apple drops to the floor and the kid goes down to pick up the apple and stands up and it went from like a 5-year-old to a 17-year-old. And it was like, look at what went away. And you say the world's changing. And I watch friends of mine, I watch family members where it's like they're missing out on being a father. And a lot of them who have jobs are just like, they need this distraction away from like the pain and misery of punching the clock 9 to 5. And I watch the ones who are business owners who respect that freedom that they have instead of take it for granted. I watch them live some of the best lives, regardless of how much money they're making in their business. I watch them live the best lives. I watch them have the greatest experiences. I watch them have the most amount of happiness of most people that I've ever witnessed. And I think that's the key there, is the impact that you get to make with that freedom.
Yeah, totally.
You said about my son and I want him to have a job. I want him to know I can get any job in the world, and then I want him to figure out I could just create my own business around this area of expertise. That's why I want him to strive for a job. I think it's an easier path to find what you're really good at. I want each one of my children, I have a son and a daughter, and I want them each to have 3 jobs. So if I die and they get my money, they have to have 3 jobs in order to get the money. And I don't care if those jobs are just for a month each, but yeah. I want them to be in food service, at least for a month, waiter, waitress, cook, something like that. I want them to work in retail. Okay. Actually have to do customer service and learn all those skills. And I want them to do something in finance, a bank, an accountant, something to understand money. Because I believe those 3 skill sets, they transition and dovetail into anything you're going to do in life. And so, yeah, I do hope he's a rocket scientist or works for Raytheon or McKinsey or, BlackRock or whatever it is. But I would love for him to do that for a period of time and then make his own company out of it.
All right. I see where you're going now.
So let me ask you, this may, if it's too personal, you let me know, but Can you discuss the battle that you personally had with shiny object syndrome and what you think since you've gotten through that and or maybe learn to manage it on your own? What are some of the things that you can share with your experience and what other people should be cautious of so maybe they don't go through the same thing?
Yeah, totally. Shiny object syndrome is probably the number one thing that held me back from making money for that and like not letting go of control of things. Those two are probably but shiny object syndrome was worse. And just early on in my business, I just kept jumping from, I want to try this strategy. I want to try this strategy. I want to do this. I want to get rid of this offer and I want to do this offer instead because I would see something new and exciting and I just wanted to run with it. And ultimately, I had to stop kind of consuming. I had to really stop. I had to take a break of consumption. And you were definitely there for that part of it where you're just like, stop learning new things. Like you have everything that you need to do to like put your plan into place and take action and do what you need to do to grow this business. You don't need to learn anything new. And once I kind of realized that, and I stopped podcasts for a while, I stopped books for a while, and I just focused on getting back into sales, just doing sales activity, doing the daily grind that you need to do in order to be successful. And I think that's ultimately what it is the people that get the shiny object syndrome is because they're trying to avoid sales, right? They're trying to avoid sales because sales is uncomfortable, especially when you're not making them. But when you start to make them, then it's not uncomfortable anymore. It starts to get really comfortable and it starts to get exciting and it starts to get almost exhilarating and you want to continue that momentum. So the number one thing that people need to do is like have that daily sales activity every day. And then if you are doing that daily sales activity every day, it's okay to have a little bit of shiny object syndrome then.
Right. Exactly.
You're
You've earned
sticking
it.
to the things that you need to get done on a regular basis. So I think that's, and it's funny because I've always been a good salesperson. I was in sales for 20 years. But when I started my own business and I wasn't selling, it gets in your head.
Yeah.
It gets in your head and you're like, well, was I a good salesperson or did I just have a good territory? Or like, did I get lucky or, was AT&T like, was it like a really easy product that I had to sell? And then, and again, just like no confidence whatsoever. And then I had that one day last year, it's right around this time last year, where I closed 7 clients in one day. And I've been good since. I've had ups and downs for sure since then, but that was the confidence boost that I needed to get back rolling. And you know what led to that? Doing work for free. Like if it wasn't doing work for free, I would have never got those 7 clients that day. And so, a lot of people tell you don't do free work because it dilutes your brand or I forget or devalues your brand. That's silly.
Yeah.
No, you're not doing free work. You got to think of it from a completely different perspective. You're not doing free work. What you're doing is you are working and you're going to get something else in exchange. Maybe that's future work with that person as a potential client. Maybe that is a referral. Maybe that is a testimonial. And that's essentially what I got. I traded that work that I did for a testimonial. And that testimonial signed 7 clients in one day and gave me the confidence that I needed to blow up the business and go from like where I was making nothing. I was actually like, I'm writing out this post right now. I was mapping it in my head where 2023, ready? A good month was $5,000. 2024, a shitty week is $5,000.
Right. Yeah. It's just simple progress.
1 year.
Yeah,
1 year
one
difference.
year. And you've gotten laser focused And I love how you said that they're scared of sales. And for anyone who's listening, I help people become CEOs. That's really the majority of the work that I do. And what I tell them and what they find out is that what a CEO really is, there's only two things. A CEO is that you're going to be really good at these two things. Number one is development. You're going to develop your product, your process, and your people. And then you hand it off to the people who work for you. And then you have nothing to do. So the job number two is you generate revenue. So if you want to lead any organization, you're always going to be in sales. You might not be picking up the phone and dialing. You might not be sending DMs all day, but you're going to be a revenue generator. And if you're distracting yourself from generating revenue, then you probably should go work for someone else or find someone to help you overcome that. Because those people who decided, I'm going to go all in on sales, created amazing opportunities for themselves. Sales solves all problems. Every single problem is solved by sales. That's good, man. I'm glad that's where you came from. So listen, man, you really, as we're talking about this focus, is you've really focused on video. And recently there's been some pushback, from some pretty big creators out there on LinkedIn. This works better, that works better. And I commend you for holding strong on this is my belief system. Why? What do you think? What do you think the next few years looks like in the landscape of social media for video?
So I think video only continues to become more and more critical with every passing day because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, AI is getting more and more clever. It's getting easier to write with AI. It's writing stories for you now. It's not just writing educational style content. People are using AI to write stories, and some people are fantastic at it. Some people they've got it down. They understand how to feed the prompt engineering, whatever the hell it is, right? They're masters at it.
Right.
But I still don't connect with that content on the deeper level. And I think people are getting more and more tired of it. People are looking at a post and wondering if it's AI.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Right, I look at this post and I'm like, oh, did this person really write this? Or was this AI? And when you're thinking about, that's a problem. Whereas you watch somebody's video, you're not looking at somebody's video and be like, is this AI? At some point, maybe, right? At some point,
Sure.
we'll probably get there and you'll have to wonder whether somebody's video is AI or not.
But that's a good point because, like you said, when people get on sales calls with you, they have this familiarity with you. And if you do end up, because, they do AI videos, it's not regularly available for everybody. But if it was available right now, we could just click a button and this podcast would happen without us being here and look like us and sound like us. When you get in person, it's still going to be very different because when you talk to somebody who has only written, they don't talk like they wrote. Whether they write it themselves or AI has done it, it's not the same. It's always that's very different. I met a very big content creator, Nat Berman. I spent time with him on Zoom and then we had lunch together and he and I chat all the time. And when I first spoke to him, I'm like, wow, this is not what I expected you to sound like. It's not expected your movements. I didn't know he and I live very close to each other, which was funny. But he's very different than what his posts are. And I don't mean that he's bullshitting in his post. I mean that there's a whole nother side to him that I think isn't shared because he only writes content. He doesn't produce video. His written content is awesome. He's built a tremendous business and it's one of many that he's built through that. But I'm always curious for that person. And there's a few others that are big names out there. Luke Matthews, a few other people wow, I wonder what would happen if they started doing both.
Yeah, so here's the thing: a lot of these creators, they are doing both. They're just not doing both on one platform, right? They're holding their video off of LinkedIn. Nat Berman posts videos on Instagram every day. He's on Instagram every day posting videos. Luke posts videos on YouTube. Luke posts videos. We made a bunch of shorts together for YouTube. We did. He does some longer form videos. He does some, live stuff and everything like that. So I don't think I would be as connected to Luke if I didn't see his video content in other places, right?
So let me ask you then, why do you think, is it the platform or is it the person? Because if these two particular people I'm talking about, there's many, I'm just using those two as examples
Yeah.
just because of the size and reach that they have. But there's a lot of people like that. Maybe they are, putting video elsewhere. And I'm spending the majority of my time on LinkedIn now. I post everywhere, but the majority of my time is spent on LinkedIn. So why do you think there's an aversion to people doing video on LinkedIn?
Unfortunately, it's because traditionally video doesn't perform well from an algorithmic perspective. People get less views, maybe they get less comments and engagement on a video post. And that holds, and there's a stigma out there that video does not help you grow on LinkedIn. And there's people out there that are pushing that stigma that video doesn't, and big people are telling you that video doesn't work on LinkedIn, that video doesn't help you grow on LinkedIn. And
That's funny that you say that, because that's
go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. Sorry to interrupt, but that's the interesting part is, what are you measuring in growth, right? And as you said, when people get on your sales calls, they know you and you don't have to do a second sales call. And there's a lot of other reasons to do it. But when you say performance, not you, but when people out there say performance, does that actually close clients? Does that make you more of an authority figure? Does that allow you to have more genuine conversations where people are ready to close? And that's always been my reason. I've been doing video for 2 years now, keep getting better at it all the time. My partner Tom hated it, but he's still doing it too. And it's a worthwhile venture to do it. I don't think it's the only thing you do. I think you do everything, but there's such a reason to do this. And maybe I'll end this or ask you one more question on this topic, is that when you said there's a saturated market, what's the reason for a personal brand? Because it's so saturated. That's literally what this is going to become, is with the AI coming in, and it's going to get completely saturated, where the only way for you to stand out and get that reach you want is going to be that you talk to people instead of right at them.
What's happening is that a lot of the big LinkedIn influencers, creators, and stuff like that they're doing text content, right? Because they're the world's best copywriters.
Right.
They are the world's best copywriters. And the world's best copywriters, they have a unique ability to connect with people through the written word. And they don't need to do video. Like Justin Welsh doesn't need to do video.
Right.
It's like, or Matt Barker, like these guys, they don't need it because they have a unique ability to build that connection to their audience without it. But they are such a small percentage of people because they're so freaking good at writing, right? And, but then they put this out there to the masses, like that they don't need it, and they're wrong.
Makes sense. So let me ask you.
It's frustrating.
No, it can be.
But look, I'm living proof. I literally came to LinkedIn with like barely a business. Like I said, I barely had a business. I was hanging on by a thread when I started creating content on LinkedIn. And I created content on LinkedIn for 7 months straight without really bringing in any revenue. But half of that content was video. And more than half of that content was video content. More than half of my posts on LinkedIn are video content. When I run into people from my past, or I run into people that I don't see on a regular basis, they'll be like, "Oh my God, I see your videos all the time on LinkedIn." Right? And even people in the LinkedIn who are more like active on LinkedIn, everything like that. People are like, "Oh, I see your videos. I see your videos. I see your videos. I see your videos." Nobody ever's like, "I see your selfies and I see your posts on LinkedIn." No, it's always, "I see your videos." And it is more noticeable. It is more memorable.
That's the key, right? It's when you're creating a brand, when you're building a company, you need to remember it for the time when you want to purchase it. And if you're forgotten in an instant, which is most of social media, if you're not memorable, and when that day comes that they're like, I need this thing, you may not have been forgotten. So what's next for Danny DelVecchio?
So I am working very hard on growing my niche video marketing agency right now. I have it to a point where it's generating a significant amount of revenue. I am making a good living from it. And the next step is to get it to the point where I am making a little bit of a better living, because I have some catching up to do from the last few years of like being in the red. All right. So I don't own a home right now. I own one car, probably need a second one. I need some new furniture. I need to make up for a couple vacations that I haven't been able to take my family on for the last few years. I need to make up for some things that I have missed out on because I've been grinding to build a business and making really no money over the last couple of years. So now that I am making money, now it's a point to get to a little bit more of a cushion. And then from there, I just want to be more of an influencer. I want to get out there. I want to speak. I want to share my ideas on stage. I want to come out, maybe speak to companies a little bit, talk about, the value of creating video content, creating content on LinkedIn, building a personal brand. That is probably the next level, but I'm holding off on that until I get the marketing company to a spot where I really feel good about the revenue that's coming in. And like I said, I'm making up for some of the lost things that my family's missed out on over the last few years.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, hey, you've influenced me. You've influenced my companies, plural. So you are doing it. And yeah, next step is to do it at a bigger, better scale. So I have one more question I'm going to ask you. Same question I ask everybody when we follow these up. But before I go into that question, what's the best way for people to find you, connect with you, learn about you, hear you? What's the best way?
Sure. I mean, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. I mean, if you Google Danny DelVecchio, the first thing you're going to see is my LinkedIn profile. That is going to be the top number one thing that comes up, right? So connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me, connect, and send me a connection request. Don't just follow me. Reach out, tell me that you heard me on the podcast, and let's actually become connections, right? And then, I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. So come check me out, Coach Danny D on YouTube. So I've been creating some long form content there and building a library of evergreen content that is going to help you grow your brand there.
Love that. All right. And we'll put all those in the show notes so everyone can do that. Don't drive over in your car and follow them now. So, last question. There's approximately 8 billion people on this planet right now. If you were to say one message that you knew every single person was going to hear, but that was the only thing they were going to hear from you for the rest of your life, what would that message be? That's why I ask it.
Yeah. Just do something that you love. And then, because that's going to make you a better person for the people that you love.
Danny DelVecchio, thank you.
Thank you.